Undercover CEO exposes a Maid HEARTBRAK over a $10,000 hospital bill. Her transformative journey begins here. Lily wiped her brow, the worn fabric of her apron soaked through with sweat as she scrubbed away at the bathroom tiles. At 30, she juggled 2 jobs in a small town that felt like a prison. Her paycheck from the local hotel barely covered the rent and the electricity bill. Every day was a grind, and now, with her son Ethan recovering from a severe asthma attack, each tick of the clock felt more like a countdown to disaster. The $10,000 hospital bill loomed over her like a monstrous shadow, growing bigger with every passing day. She stood frozen, breathing heavily, hands trembling as she envisioned the mounting bills scattered across her cluttered kitchen table. Fear gnawed at her gut. How could she face another phone call from the debt collectors? Each insistent ring pushed her further into despair, as if they were conscious entities, reminding her she was failing. What did she have if not her pride, her unwavering love for Ethan? She was a mother, dedicated, yet the system felt like a relentless tide pulling her under. Lily. The sharp call pulled her from her turbulent thoughts. The hotel manager's voice echoed in the hallway, urgency laced with frustration. If only she could take a break, breathe, or feel safe for a moment. Instead, she tucked her feelings beneath the surface, adjusted her apron, and stepped into the bustling corridor, her resolve crystallizing with every step. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The irony of cleaning lavish suites while living in cramped quarters gnawed at her. Each room she entered told stories of comfort, luxury she could only dream of. Would Ethan ever know a life unburdened by financial worry? As she filed away that hope just to flicker in the dark, she scrubbed harder, her knuckles whitening with the strain. Jonathan, the hotel's CEO, had gone incognito. He observed from a distance, witnessing Lily's relentless spirit. Yet the sight of her working herself raw turned his stomach. Why did her struggle haunt him? Each movement was heartbreaking yet beautiful in its raw authenticity, echoing the commitment of his own mother who had sacrificed everything. The tension flooded his mind, the weight of his corporate decisions crashing down on him. She didn't know he was watching, but in that moment, she became more than just another employee. She became a reflection of the human cost of his choices. But what could he do? The dilemma tangled within him: how to bridge the chasm between corporate responsibility and personal accountability. When he discovered Lily's financial crisis, he felt his heart clench. The easy answers felt superficial. Programs and donations weren't enough. Each hollow gesture shook him further, awakening a question that rattled his conscience: what had he become? There he stood, the man who orchestrated policies that perpetuated suffering, rooted in fear and desperation. Meanwhile, Lily's struggle pushed her toward a breakthrough. She began to carve out a platform to voice her narrative, a blog, a lifeline, yet it terrified her. Would it expose her vulnerabilities or ignite change? As her spirit mounted, he felt a pull toward her journey, yet fear tied him back. This dance of insecurity gripped him like a vice, pushing him to confront the truth lurking in her narrative. Would he step in, risking everything to make a difference, or slip back into the silence that enveloped his privilege? The tension thickened, an electric current buzzing in the air as each moment. Intensified uncertainty wrapped itself around them, 2 lives at a crossroads, yet neither willing to bear their truths. Where would this precarious journey lead? Lily's hands shook as she finished detailing the last corner of the suite. She stepped back, surveying her work, needing to feel the pride of a job well done. Yet the satisfaction quickly evaporated under the oppressive weight of reality. Beyond the polished marble and lavish furnishings lay an uncertain future, and it gnawed at her as fiercely as the scouring pad had. The idea of starting a blog consumed her thoughts. It was an outlet she never considered until the heaviness of despair threatened to swallow her whole. Her heart raced at the thought of sharing her story, a tale laced with loss and hardship, but also resilience and hope. Could it make a difference? Could her voice reach others who felt just as stranded? With every keystroke, she wrestled with doubt. She envisioned herself typing late into the night, fueled by cold coffee and the frantic need for connection. Would anyone care about a single mother's plight? Yet, deep down, she knew she had a story worth telling. Her pain was palpable, a testament to her unwavering spirit. Later that night, amid the flickering light of her kitchen bulb, Lily clicked Create New Post. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, the adrenaline of vulnerability and fear coursing through her veins. The first line was a challenge, a portal into her life. She began to write about Ethan's asthma attacks, how they had altered the fabric of their existence, how financial struggles often led them to feel like prisoners in their own lives. Revelations poured out, unveiling the duality of her existence, a dedicated mother and a struggling employee. As the words flowed, something inside her shifted. Each sentence felt like a small act of defiance, as if she could reclaim parts of herself that months of worry had stolen away. The blog became her sanctuary, a quiet rebellion against the stigma wrapped around her circumstances. Meanwhile, Jonathan sat in his dimly lit office, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down like an anchor. He had followed Lily's journey, and her budding blog caught his attention. The vulnerability she expressed resonated with him, stirring something deep within. He had faced unspoken challenges in his own life, expectations and sacrifices, but meeting someone as courageous as Lily shone a light on his own blind spots. But why did he feel this connection? He had never truly grasped the costs of running a corporation. Each decision he made reverberated beyond spreadsheets and balance sheets etched into lives, real people with dreams and struggles. Motivated by a growing sense of moral obligation, he began to consider if he could leverage his status to make a tangible impact. One thing became clear: leaving things as they were was no longer an option. The hum of the office was interrupted by the harsh ring of the phone, and he found himself pondering the possibilities. Could he reach out to her? What would he even say? The idea filled him with trepidation. Transparency cut both ways, and he feared exposing not just Lily's struggles but his own failures as a leader. As those thoughts circled through his mind, he felt a sense of urgency build. A moment of reckoning was upon him. He couldn't remain a passive observer while lives hung in the balance. The turmoil inside him intensified, a storm brewing from the collision of his privilege and her reality, a catalyst for his change. In a single moment of clarity, he made his decision. The time had come to face the consequences of his past actions, both personal and professional. Would he have the courage to step forward and connect with Lily, breaking down the barriers that confined them both? With renewed determination, he dialed her number, the sound of the ringing phone showing a light at the end of the tunnel, pushing both of them toward an unexpected crossroads. Would their lives collide in a way that altered everything they had known? Lily's heart raced as she stared at her phone, the weight of the ringing sound amplifying her anxiety. Each chime felt as if it were tearing open a new wound, nudging her closer to an utter confrontation with uncertainty. If Jonathan's call was a lifeline, it felt equally like a noose tightening around her fragile confidence. She let it ring once, twice, the temptation to ignore it swelling with each cycle. What did he want? At that moment, she could conceive countless scenarios: an offer of help, a plea for understanding, or worse, a judgment on her struggles. The thought made her stomach twist into knots. Finally, she took a breath. If she was genuine in her endeavor to reclaim her voice, then embracing discomfort was essential. She answered. Hello? Her voice trembled, a mixture of hope and dread coiling together, scrambling her thoughts. Lily? It's Jonathan. His voice came through clear but laden with urgency, as if he were preparing to dive into uncharted waters alongside her. I've been following your blog. She absorbed the words, realizing his admiration for her writing could be both validating and suffocating. Thank you. I didn't expect anyone to read it. I needed to write. I think you have a story that needs to be shared further, he said, sparking her curiosity but also igniting a deep-seated wariness. Did he see her as merely a subject, a box to check off on his own ledger of moral responsibility? What do you mean? She probed, aware of her shaky voice revealing her vulnerability like ink blots on pristine paper. I see your words resonating, creating ripples. I want to help you amplify your message. Her chest tightened. Help? You don't even know my struggles. True, he conceded gently, his voice holding an almost tangible weight. But I know the impact of stories and the importance of authenticity. Please, allow me to connect you with resources that could help you expand your blog or even find a platform to share your journey. Her thoughts raced, questions swirling around like starlings in flight. Was this genuine? Did he truly care, or was it merely a chance to soothe his conscience? She felt the sentiment shifting within her, grappling with equal parts hope and skepticism. As someone who had seldom received any form of support, the notion of rendering her life to the mercy of another was daunting. "What's in it for you?" The words escaped before she could stop them, a reflex honed from too many past disappointments. "I want to do better," he said quietly. "I want to help, and I want to learn. But this isn't about me. It's about your voice." Her mind battled against the cascade of possibility. Jonathan might genuinely desire to foster her message, but could she trust his intentions without being consumed in the process? "Tell me, how do you plan to go about this?" she asked, needing not just answers but to feel empowered in the choice. He hesitated, as if contemplating how much to reveal. "It starts with collaborating. I can introduce you to people who can assist. We can strategize together." The prospect was intoxicating, a way to elevate her struggles into a broader conversation, to amplify her pain into purpose. Yet the hesitation of sharing her burden with such a powerful man loomed heavily. "Let's discuss it. I need to really think about this before moving forward," she said, asserting her agency while battling the simultaneous urge to leap at the opportunity. "Absolutely," he replied. "I respect that, and I'll give you space. Just know that I'm here." Hanging up, a strange sensation filled her, a mixture of exhilaration and fear, as if she had stepped off a precipice into unknown waters. There was potential for transformation within reach, yet it was shrouded in the possibility of vulnerability she had only begun to navigate. Little did she know, Jonathan was grappling with his own storm of revelations. The moment of their intersection had set off a chain reaction destined to result in shifting mindsets, a confluence of personal growth and moral awakening. What he had wanted to offer her was merely a reflection of the change he yearned to see within himself. She glanced at the blank screen of her laptop, filled with new motivation but marred by uncertainty. The challenging balance now rested upon her shoulders. Could she embrace this unusual partnership without losing herself again? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting her world in shades of twilight, she paused, contemplating the impending leap into the unknown. The keys of her burgeoning blog seemed to beckon, awaiting her next move with bated breath, and somewhere in that cacophony of emotions, she felt the sweet tug of determination whispering back. In navigating this newfound connection with Jonathan, would she unearth parts of herself long hidden in the shadows? Lily sat at her desk, illuminated by the ethereal glow of her laptop. The silence of the room felt palpable, like a tense pause before an explosion. With every tick of the clock, she wrestled with the weight of Jonathan's offer. It wasn't merely about enhancing her blog, it was an invitation to share a deep, untamed part of herself with the world. The stakes felt impossibly high, and yet the prospects shimmered enticingly. She opened her Word document, her fingers lingering hesitantly over the keyboard. Each message she crafted already bore her truth, but could they withstand scrutiny? Would she remain intact if Jonathan forged connections to elevate her voice? The vulnerability of putting her heart out there was both exhilarating and terrifying. In pursuit of clarity, she decided to browse through previous posts, revisiting her attempts at self-exploration. As she read the words she'd penned, she felt her pulse quicken as familiar emotions washed over her. The anger, disappointment, and even the flashes of resilience sprang to life again. Her heart ached at the memories, but alongside that pain was a flicker of empowerment. Perhaps this collaboration could transform her raw experiences into a narrative that might resonate, inspire, or even heal. As she immersed herself in her writing, a surge of energy sprawled across her limbs. Words flowed more easily, stories spilled out as if they had been waiting impatiently for her to notice them. For the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of hope rising within, buoyed by the potential for impact rather than isolation, and yet, doubt clawed at her thoughts. What if Jonathan's intentions weren't as noble as he professed? Each story she wrote breathed life into not just her struggles but also the external forces that had shaped them. She couldn't afford to be naive. Life had taught her the cost of misplaced trust. Could he ultimately reshape her narrative into something she no longer recognized? Resolutely, she transitioned to her tasks outside the world of words. Her mind buzzed with the pressing need to explore Jonathan's proposal further, but also to fortify herself emotionally. She decided to research successful bloggers, their pitfalls, triumphs, and moments of profound vulnerability. Opening multiple tabs on her browser, she sought wisdom not just for herself, but as a measure of what help could truly mean. Hours flew by, and her enthusiasm transformed into a plan. Gathering her notes, she roughed out a strategy to communicate her needs, reiterating the importance of presence alongside practicality. "And what if you structure your message?" she whispered to herself, clutching a pen as she scribbled ideas in her journal. "Lead with your hesitations and cement your boundaries. Be honest about your fears but also bold in your aspirations." Her heart whispered these affirmations back to her, and she began writing an email to Jonathan delineating her terms. She was ready, but on her own terms. Each keystroke pulsed with a mix of determination and anxiety, and for the first time, panic twisted into excitement. The uncertainty had unraveled into a sense of purpose. Just as she clicked send, a notification pinged. A new email popped up on her screen. It was from Jonathan, subject line, "Next Steps." As she opened the message, her breath hitched. He had written not just about logistics but his own reflections, tales of messiness in his life, and suddenly, the facade of invulnerability began to crack. Her heart raced again, not from fear, but anticipation. Knowing he struggled too made her feel less alone, less like a solitary figure navigating rugged terrain. Yet, with knowledge came a new complexity. Was he a mirror reflecting vulnerability, or merely a distraction from her internal battles? She leaned back, swallowing the mix of emotions tied up in this obscure relationship. If she followed through, it was imperative that she safeguarded her spirit, her story, and her truth. Intently, she considered Jonathan's words about collaboration. Could it unearth hidden strengths she had yet to recognize? A shiver ran down her spine. The stakes were slowly being raised, and as she prepared to step into the unknown with him, she realized more than ever that this journey was not just about sharing her voice, it was about discovering who she truly was. And somewhere in the blend of anxiety and resolve, Lily sensed a powerful shift. This wasn't merely an invitation, it was an awakening, a call to confront her shadows and illuminate her path. Yet the brewing storm of emotions hinted at larger revelations just beyond the horizon. As she gazed past her screen, she could almost feel the approach of something monumental looming closer. The crossroads beckoned, and soon she would have to choose which path she would take, both toward her dreams and the potential for staggering heartache. Lily woke early the next morning, the faint light filtering into her bedroom like a tentative invitation. She felt a strange resolve stirred deep within her, a tangible sense of anticipation that her life was on the verge of change. As she reached for her mug, the warmth of the coffee settled in her hands, igniting a focus that had felt so elusive in the previous days. Sitting at her desk with a fresh notebook, she glanced at the email from Jonathan again. This time, the worry that had peppered her thoughts transformed into fierce curiosity. The cracks she had seen in his facade reflected her own, and maybe, just maybe, this collaboration could be the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of herself. Could the journey also expose parts of him that he had kept hidden? She opened her laptop and began drafting a response, making sure to balance honesty with cautious optimism. What if, in navigating this partnership, they both discovered transformative layers of resilience? As she typed, her mind shifted between strategic considerations and how to convey her thoughts succinctly. Collaborations can be messy, Jonathan, she wrote slowly, but perhaps that's where the magic lies. If we're willing to be vulnerable, we might both harvest something deeper. With each word, she released her grip on apprehension. Instead of fear, excitement spiraled through her. She was no longer just a passive participant in her own narrative, but Lily knew that navigating this inevitable entanglement required clarity. She took stock of what she wanted from the partnership: support, guidance, a shared journey into vulnerability. She didn't just want to amplify her voice, she craved validation that her struggles were valid, valuable, and worthy of exploration. After a few rounds of edits, she hit send, her heart pounding with the thrill of putting her needs out there. The decisiveness grounded her, she was now an active architect of her destiny. A few minutes later, a reply from Jonathan popped into her inbox, and with it came the familiar rush of anticipation. His response was laced with understanding, the tone almost intimate, sharing more of his own fears. Every line bared emotions she had not anticipated and yet craved the very threads that could weave their stories together. With a determined spirit, she compiled her research about storytelling techniques, gathering insights from others who had exposed their truths. Articles lured her into hidden corners of creative risk-taking and vulnerability. She noted how impactful narratives often stemmed from shared burdens and communal experiences of humanity, emphasizing emotional authenticity over polished perfection. As she scribbled down key takeaways, a thought bubbled to the surface: it was time to share her own stories beyond mere blogging. Perhaps her path could extend into spoken narratives or even workshops. If she was stepping into the spotlight, she needed to illuminate not just her struggles but also the paths others might walk. But doubt loomed in the background. Would people resonate with her experiences? Each time she replayed the worst moments of her life, flashes of fear surfaced: fear of judgment, of lingering discomfort, of rejection. The world can be ruthless, and exposing her own wounds felt like asking for further anguish. Yet, the dawning realization surfaced: happiness too. Her story was unique, filled with nuances others could relate to. It might even bring healing not just to her, but to those willing to listen. The risks were high, but so were the potential rewards of connecting with others who felt unseen. Inspired by her emerging thoughts, Lily began outlining a few topics she wished to tackle first. The more she wrote, the more pressing her desire to reach out grew. She envisioned a gathering, a budding community built around shared narratives and collective healing. Though that idea set her heart racing. What if it flopped? Deciding she would not allow fear to put out the spark ignited within her, Lily drew up plans to research local meetups and bloggers in her region. If she was serious about this journey, she needed to surround herself with supportive, like-minded individuals. The clock ticked on, and the sun climbed higher, casting a brighter glow over her life. As she looked out the window, a sense of invigoration surged within her. The notion of a community felt daunting but promising. It could also anchor her intentions and provide a safety net as she ventured forth. Just as she was about to dive into organizing her thoughts, another ping from her laptop caught her attention. Jonathan had replied yet again, and this time, there was an edge to his message, an unwavering request for them to meet in person. It sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly, shared vulnerability was not just a concept, it was about to become an undeniable reality. Would she step fully into this whirlwind of connection and responsibility, or would her hesitations pull her back into her cocoon of comfort? All she knew for sure was the stakes had just escalated, and something within her trembled in eager anticipation for what was to come next. Lily's heart raced as she considered Jonathan's invitation to meet. This was a significant fork in her journey. The palpable tension between excitement and fear left her disturbed yet eager. She had imagined their connection blossoming over words exchanged electronically, but the prospect of sitting across from him, face to face, brought stark reality crashing back to her awareness. Pacing her tiny apartment, she wrestled with her thoughts. Meeting Jonathan would mean peeling back more layers of her facade. Was she truly ready for that kind of exposure? What if her vulnerability left her shattered? This moment could represent the synergy they had both longed for, or it could crack open her carefully constructed barrier, thrusting her into an emotional storm she was not prepared to weather. What if he sees me differently? She whispered to herself, sitting on the edge of the couch. This new perspective felt overwhelming. She had always played the role of the observer, never quite the center of attention. Now, as she considered stepping into an authentic dialogue, the stakes were unfathomably higher. What if, after they shared their truths, he took a step back instead of coming closer? That fear ignited a fierce determination within her. You have to take risks to grow, she reminded herself, adopting the motto that had been so easy to preach but difficult to embody. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened her laptop again, fingers poised over the keyboard. With a newfound rhyme in her heart, she began drafting an outline for how she wanted to present herself to Jonathan. What stories felt pressing? What personal truths had shaped her into the woman sitting here now? As she jotted ideas onto a blank document, her thoughts wove into a narrative tapestry of her struggles, her fight for validation, and the dreams that often eluded her grasp. With each keystroke, her confidence solidified. She focused on the events in her life that had carried both pain and lessons. The heartbreak of previous failures, the disappointment laced through every unfulfilled ambition, became fodder for her voice. Her story was more than just a monologue, it was part of a larger conversation about what it meant to be human in a world that thrived on perfectionism. Moments later, she concluded her outline and leaned back, satisfied with the determination glimmering in her chest. But just as quickly, the doubts began to surface again. What if Jonathan found her past unworthy? What if he dismissed her vulnerabilities as trivial? The fear gnawed at her. She had done this for a living, hadn't she? Repeatedly, she had wrapped herself in the art of storytelling, all in a bid for understanding, yet her own narrative felt daunting to lay bare. Determined to sidestep the spiraling thoughts of inadequacy, she reached for her journal and began to scribble affirmations. Your story has value. You deserve to be heard. Embrace the unknown. These words pulled her back from the ledge of uncertainty, anchoring her feelings in solid ground. By the time she finished her affirmations, she realized that every moment of fear she faced could also be a springboard for her evolution. Embracing vulnerability in her meeting with Jonathan had the potential to catalyze deeper growth not just for him, but for her. As they exchanged stories, perhaps they would navigate their anxieties together, discovering resilience born from shared courage. Lily's phone buzzed, and her breath caught in her throat. An alert appeared. Jonathan had messaged her again. With a mix of anticipation and anxiety, she opened the notification. He wanted to meet the following Saturday afternoon, a date that felt both too soon and perfectly right. There was little room for retreat now. She was standing on the brink of something transformative. Yet, deep within, the fear of vulnerability overshadowed her excitement. Would she prepare enough to embrace this challenge? Would Jonathan's reaction cut too deep? Amidst her swirling thoughts, she made a decision. It was time to cement her intention, to dive fully into the unknown. She would face her fears head on. It was while drafting her reply, a mix of eagerness and trepidation coursing through her, that she noticed a voice from within whispering this meeting could mark the start of something extraordinary, and just as she was about to hit send, another pang of doubt struck her. What if Jonathan had troubles of his own that would overshadow her big moment? The moment hung heavily over her as she hesitated. Lily's thumb hovered over the screen for a moment longer than she had intended. The words she had contemplated felt both powerful and fragile, like a tightrope stretched across a chasm of fear. She forced herself to breathe, allowing the swirling mix of emotions to settle. This wasn't simply a message. This was a declaration of her willingness to step beyond the perimeter she had drawn around herself. After giving in to the urgency within, she hit send, a small jolt of exhilaration igniting within her. Yet, the joy of that split-second rush faded as quickly as it had come. Did she just expose herself to a reality that could unravel her? Her phone was silent, a vacuum sucking up the potential for connection, and the silence grew heavy in her mind. The days leading up to Saturday felt akin to an eternity, marked by an amalgamation of excitement and dread. Every encounter with friends was punctuated by her internal monologue, a constant reminder of the impending confrontation. What if he thinks I'm too damaged? What if he realizes I'm not worth the effort? The self-doubt clung to her like ivy, suffocating any growth she had made. As the week wore on, she sought refuge in her writing. The act of pouring her thoughts onto the page transformed from a means of self-expression into a lifeline. Each story she wrote was a thread in the tapestry of her identity, a way to weave her pain into something more meaningful, something that could shine even in the darkest corners. One evening, lost in the rhythm of her pen scratching against the paper, she paused mid-sentence. An epiphany struck her, illuminating the shadows of her insecurities. It wasn't merely about sharing her life with Jonathan, it was about reclaiming it. To peel back the layers wasn't a sign of weakness, but rather an act of profound courage and assertion that she, too, deserved connection. The reflections surged through her mind like electricity. Perhaps Jonathan had his own burdens that made him unsteady on this shared path. She had herself embraced the ideals of authenticity, but had she allowed that same philosophy to flourish within her when confronting her own shame? It was time to embrace her narrative fully, not just for him but as an anchor for her self-worth. When Saturday came, she donned her favorite cardigan, a gestural shield against vulnerability, though she recognized now that it wouldn't suffice. As she glanced in the mirror before leaving, she refused to ignore the strength that had sprouted from her introspection. There was something uniquely beautiful about her incongruences, the priceless tapestry that told a story of survival. The cafe where they agreed to meet buzzed with chatter, the air dense with aromas that triggered her senses. Yet, amidst the cacophony, her mind remained anchored to the singular moment of truth she was approaching. Lily arrived early, choosing a corner table where she could watch people come and go. Each glance at the door sent a flutter of nerves racing through her, but beneath it was a core like steel resolute. She would not slip back into the shadows. When he arrived, she intended to greet him not with trepidation but as a person ready to share and listen. Equally, it was a simple gesture when he strode through the door that undid every breath she had mustered moments before. He looked just as anxious as her, and in that instant of shared vulnerability, something began to shift within her. Maybe they were both navigating this same storm, but as Jonathan approached, a storm cloud of uncertainty loomed inside her. What hidden truths lurked beneath his calm exterior? Would their meeting reveal unexpected depths of pain that mirrored her own? An unfamiliar dread fluttered in her stomach, and she gripped the edges of her chair, anxiety racing back to reclaim her. Lily steeled herself for whatever revelations the next few moments could bring. Her journey into authenticity could deepen or fracture on the precipice of this encounter. What awaited them just beyond those words exchanged over coffee? And as she opened her mouth to greet him, the question loomed larger than ever: could vulnerability unite them, or would their truths drive them apart? As Jonathan approached her table, his tentative smile felt both inviting and intimidating. Her heart raced, caught in the tension of the moment. Would this encounter become a pivotal point, or would it crumble under the weight of their fears? "Hey, sorry I'm late," he said, sliding into the chair opposite her. There was an openness in his eyes, the kind that hinted at a dangerous honesty. Lily's throat tightened. Could she find the strength to match his vulnerability? "Not a problem," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Taking a moment, she allowed herself to breathe deeply, pouring her resolve into the next few words that might define this meeting. She noted the slight tremor in her hands and turned them into a clasp around her coffee cup. The conversation began innocuously, revolving around casual topics like current events and mutual friends, but beneath the surface, the weight of their unspoken truths loomed large. Each exchange felt like a dance on the edge of a precipice. Jonathan's laughter wound around her, soothing yet apprehensive. What could he reveal if she opened this door? Then came the lull, the fragile silence that hung heavily between them. A moment of opportunity stretched into a chasm. Should she breach the surface? With the epiphany from the previous week still resonating, she made a decision. "Can we talk about something heavier?" The question hung in the air, charged and electric. Lily watched as Jonathan tensed, hesitation flickering over his expression. Her stomach knotted, anticipating his response, yet she pressed on. "I mean, we've both been through a lot, right? I think it would help if we didn't pretend everything is fine." Jonathan's eyes widened, a flash of surprise followed by what seemed like relief. "Yeah, I think you're right. I've been struggling with some things." Encouraged by his openness, she leaned forward, dredging up her courage. "I sent you that message because I realized I can't hide from my past. Sharing it is the only way to move forward. It's scary, but I'd rather take that risk than keep walling myself in." Her heart pounded under the earnestness of her words, but her determination pushed her to continue. He nodded slowly. "I get that. I've always kept parts of myself hidden. It's like carrying weight I don't need." As they delved into their honesty, the floodgates opened. Jonathan spoke about his struggles with feeling out of place, the imposter syndrome that haunted him even in his professional successes. Lily found clarity and resonance in his revelations. They mirrored her own doubts. They shared stories, moments of triumph buried in insecurities, their struggles echoing off one another like a melodic harmony of pain transformed into strength. With each exposed vulnerability, Lily felt the barriers begin to erode. She was no longer the isolated girl wrestling with her scars, she was a storyteller interpreting her life's narrative for the first time. Yet a lingering question danced in her mind. Would Jonathan see her newfound courage as merely a facade, a stalwart shield hiding her struggle? As he leaned in, his expression shifted, revealing a depth she had yet to explore. What uncertainty was still poised just beneath the surface of their shared revelations? A flash of worry gripped her, the specter of rejection raising its head once again. The weight of her confession felt both liberating and precarious. With their vulnerabilities laid bare, would they indeed feel interconnected, or was this merely the beginning of an unraveling journey? As Lily met Jonathan's gaze, she held her breath, emotions roiling in a tumultuous sea. The thread that tethered them could either bind them closer or snap under pressure. "Lily," he said carefully, the tension thickening in the air. "There is something I've been meaning to tell you," and in that suspended moment, she realized they were not merely at the brink of personal revelations, they were on the cusp of an awakening that could alter everything she thought she knew about her own heart. Could this outing truly mark the beginning of something transformative, or was she leading herself into another heartache unknowingly? The words hung in the air, a fragrant mist of potential and dread. As Lily searched Jonathan's expression for clues, she felt as though the world outside their little cafe had ceased to exist. The rhythmic clatter of plates and chatter faded, leaving only the gentle but steady drumbeat of her heart against the weight of the moment. Whatever Jonathan was about to disclose could shatter or solidify what had been unfolding between them. "Lily," he said again, his voice low, almost reverent. "I've been dealing with some fears about my career. I've had this incredible opportunity laid out in front of me, and yet, every time I reach for it, I hesitate. I think, who am I to deserve a position like that?" His raw honesty resonated deeply within her, lighting a flickering spark of understanding. Their struggles mirrored each other more than she had thought. The real chasm between them, it seemed, lay in the self-imposed barriers they had constructed. "Imposter syndrome, right?" "It's paralyzing," she replied, finding the courage to embrace the common ground. The words came out more confidently than she felt. "I know this feeling all too well. I often assume that my past mistakes define me, that they somehow overshadow any progress I make." Jonathan nodded, his gaze steady, igniting a determination within her. "Exactly. But I've realized that I need to start believing in my worth. Otherwise, I'll always hold myself back." Each revelation was like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, illuminating her internal landscape one fleeting moment at a time. A clarity began to seep into her psyche. This was not just about vulnerability, it was about authenticity. By peeling back their layers, would they discover an unshakable foundation for trust and potentially a deeper connection? "I've been applying for jobs that I'm less than qualified for," Jonathan continued, a hint of frustration lining his voice. "It's like I want to prove something to myself, but in the process, I feel like a fraud. Why not harness that fear?" Lily suggested, the words pouring out before she could second-guess them. "What if the fear itself is pointing you to something you truly desire? Instead of running from it, what if you embraced the possibility of failure as an essential step toward growth?" A flicker of surprise crossed Jonathan's face, and she felt a rush of empowerment. Her own insights felt fortified by their sharing. She wasn't offering mere clichés, she was reflecting the journey she was on. "But what about you?" he asked, tilting his head, interested. "What do you truly want, Lily?" The question sent shivers down her spine, igniting a rush of thoughts in rapid succession. Did she want a new career? Did she want to rediscover her sense of self? Maybe she wanted both, and the courage to chase that ambition. With each pulse of her heart, the clarity of her desires began to solidify. "I want to create a life I'm proud of," she replied. "Not built on fear or what I think I should be doing, but on what feels genuinely fulfilling. I want to write and share my experiences, maybe even inspire others who feel trapped." His eyes sparkled with encouragement, and she could see he understood as he leaned in. Time felt suspended again, and in that moment, she realized the door she had cracked open was slowly swinging wide. A realization struck her with newfound clarity: vulnerability fosters connection, but it also demands courage. Would they both seize this moment to flourish, or would they retreat behind familiar walls at the first sign of discomfort? The real journey was just beginning, and soon they would have to confront an unexpected truth. "There's something else," Jonathan revealed, breaking her reverie, his voice shaking slightly. "There's a project at work, it needs a creative consultant." Her heart thudded. Could this connection ripple beyond their conversation into real collaboration? The excitement and trepidation mingled, creating tension that hung like fog. "What are you saying?" But the words lingered, both exhilarating and unnerving. As he opened up about the possibility. In front of them, her pulse quickened. Were they prepared to face the depths of their fears, challenge what they thought they needed, and dive into the unknown together? In the following weeks, Lily's life began to shift in profound ways. The collaboration with Jonathan propelled her journey forward, transforming what once felt like a solitary struggle into a vibrant partnership fueled by shared vulnerability. They worked late into the nights, poring over concepts and strategies to elevate her blog, intertwining her story with Jonathan's vision for corporate responsibility. Each discussion nurtured their courage, pushing them both toward authenticity. Lily launched a newly revamped blog focused on resilience and personal growth, emboldened by Jonathan's unwavering support. An ever-growing audience began to respond, sharing their own struggles and triumphs. In stark contrast to her previous fears of judgment, she found joy in the connections blossoming from her words. The comments section swelled with messages from readers echoing her sentiments, pouring out their own narratives of hardship and strength. For the first time, Lily recognized her own voice mattered. Meanwhile, Jonathan, guided by Lily's authenticity, confronted his own career ambitions. He accepted the daunting position he had previously shied away from, a creative director role that allowed him to mold corporate culture. As he stepped into this new leadership position, he committed to prioritizing empathy and transparency, recognizing the human cost of policies that had long perpetuated struggles like Lily's. He shared his journey on social media, fostering conversations about imposter syndrome and the importance of embracing imperfection. Their dedication to creating change elevated their positions from mere authority figures to dynamic leaders cultivating connection. One afternoon, a pivotal moment crystallized their achievements. Lily was invited to speak at a local community center, sharing her journey and the importance of vulnerability to a rapt audience. As she transitioned from storyteller to motivational speaker, an unexpected rush of confidence surged through her. She felt connected, powerful, and authentic. Each story resonated with those in the room, and she reveled in the realization that her experiences could spark hope in others. As she finished, applause erupted. For the first time, she felt the weight of her past transform into a badge of honor. Weeks later, the culmination of their efforts materialized in a funding initiative within Jonathan's company, providing resources for employees facing financial distress, similar to what Lily had endured. The announcement was met with cheers and gratitude. Both recognized the immeasurable growth that had emerged not just from their collaboration, but from their willingness to face the truths lurking within their hearts. Through their journey, Lily demonstrated fierce competence as a storyteller and advocate, while Jonathan stood out as a leader willing to challenge the status quo. Each found recognition not merely through accolades but through a profound understanding of self-worth and the ripple effect of their actions. As they amassed these achievements, a unique bond formed between them, rooted in respect and admiration. They had discovered mutual growth not as savior and rescued, but as individuals propelled by courage, connection, and a shared commitment to creating deeper narratives. As the months rolled on, Lily established her identity not just as a survivor, but as a mentor and catalyst igniting better conversations in her community. The sense of accomplishment settled firmly within. She had rewritten her story and reclaimed her worth. Now, standing back in her glittering kitchen, she marveled at how far she'd come. With confidence coursing through her veins, Lily smiled, deeply aware that her story was only just beginning. She had conquered the bigger battles within herself, found true fulfillment, and demonstrated to the world the strength of authenticity. If you felt empowered by Lily's transformative journey, you need to subscribe now for more inspiring stories. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to join our community. Leave a like now to ensure our message reaches others who can benefit from stories of personal conquering. Comment your thoughts and reactions about Lily's journey or your theories about the transformations we all face. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread this message together.